Good evening, everybody. Robert used to start a lot of satsangs by asking everybody to ask themselves why they were there. He would say, ask yourself why you're here tonight. And I always used to wonder why he kept telling us to do that. And it's become very clear to me now why he did that. It's because he couldn't figure it out. I don't have any idea why we're here tonight and what you're doing here tonight. So let's play that game. Ask yourself why you're here tonight. And we'll go around the room. No. It is clear to me that if you're here to get some sort of a answer, there aren't any. If you're hoping to suddenly figure this out, that's probably not going to happen. If you're here to be in the silence and share the consciousness, the silence is more silent tomorrow night. We don't talk tomorrow night and interrupt the silence, so Wednesday and Friday and Sunday are better nights to come sit in the silence. Maybe we're here so that we have a new forum to talk about our problems. But there are plenty of forums for talking about our problems. Maybe we're here to listen to other people's problems. But there's lots of AA meetings, so we don't need to come here for that. Only problem that any of us have is misidentification. The only problem that anybody has is misidentification. Anybody or any nation or anything has is misidentification. And we've talked a lot about that. You know that most human beings go through their entire life without, for 1 second, correctly identifying themselves or anybody else. We as human beings are a bunch of masks and costumes. The personality is a mask and a costume. And we identify with our mask and our costume and our body and our mind. And because we identify with our body and our mind, we operate with our 5 body senses and our 6th mind sense, our rational mind. And because we do that, we miss ourselves and everybody else completely. Never see them. Never see who's really there or who's really here. So your time would be better spent in finding out who's really here rather than being here, so to speak. It's as if we were in a play, all of us are in a play, and we're all actors and actresses, but we're wearing strange costumes and strange masks, and we all have assigned roles to play, which we play, and the play goes on. But if we were an actor in a play, or an actress in a play, it would be important to remember that we were the actor or the actress, rather than forgetting that and getting caught up in the role. Because we would lose all of our skill and all of our technique. And we would also, if we forgot that the others on the stage were actors or actresses performing their roles, we would start believing what they were doing. And we might react to it in a way other than the way in which the play was written. And there might be fights on stage and all sorts of ludicrous things occurring as we take the other actors seriously and think they really meant what they said. Do you see what I mean? You're an actor or an actress, and the other actor or actress comes up to you and makes a statement that their part is required to make, and you take it seriously and punch them out. And it's the end of the play, and it's the end of everything. That's ludicrous. And yet that's what we're doing. 24/7. 6 billion of us. And it's all a question of misidentification. We think we're the part, rather than the actress or actor. The true actor is the third part. I mentioned the body and I mentioned the mind, but the actor is the spirit, or the soul, or the big I. The I that is the individual expression, or the expression of God, let's say, as individual God consciousness. What God sees as a human being, or as the being. The human part is our own addition, but God is expressed as individual consciousness, and that individual consciousness has put on this role and this mask and this costume and is acting, and has forgotten that it's an actor or an actress, and has forgotten that everybody else on stage is an actor or an actress, and is taking it all seriously. So that's the only problem that any of us has, is misidentification, continually confusing ourselves with the role, the body, the mind, the five senses, the rationality, and continually making the mistake that Jesus and all the other masters have warned us against about judging by appearances, believing what the five senses and the mind are telling us, the rational mind, the human consciousness is telling us. And living in a zoo. And that's all the problems. See, the problems that you have aren't yours. The problems that you have are the problems that belong to the mask and the costume. they're the problems. The problems that you think you have are problems of the role. They're not the problems of you, the actor. The actor doesn't have the problem. The person, the role has the problem. So all of our problems are not our problems. They're the problems of the role we're playing. And all the problems that we see are not the other people's problems. They're the problems that are associated with the roles they're playing. And we don't need to solve our problems, and we don't need to solve their problems, and we don't need to fix anything, because it's all the play. And it's not happening to the actors and the actresses, which is to say to the I's that we really are, the individual expressions of God. So, that's all the information that we need. There's no talks that can say more clearly what's going on than you have a problem with mistaken identity. There's no need to talk about how mistaken the identity is, or how the identity came to be mistaken, or any of those kinds of questions. There's nothing to understand more clearly. It's a simple case of mistaken identity. There's no sense trying to understand the real identity with the five senses and the sixth sense, the rational mind, because that's part of the role, that's part of the mistaken identity, and it can't understand the actor. The role you're playing can't comprehend the actor. All it can comprehend and react to is the other roles. There's nothing that the body-mind can do to resolve this situation. What has to happen is the identification has to be corrected. The role has to remember that it's the actor. Maybe somebody else on the stage has to tell the player that it's really he or she is really the actor. Now that's really the purpose of a meditation practice. The real purpose of meditation, the real act of meditation, when you are in the state of meditation, it's not an act really, it's a state. When you're in the state of meditation, it is the state of not being in the five senses and the rational mind. Meditation is being disidentified from the role. It's not an act of becoming identified with the I. You don't need to become identified with the I. That's who you are. What we need to do is become disidentified with the role. And when we're in the state of meditation, that is our state. We're disidentified. And it feels like we're not identified with anything. But in that silence happens the intuition, and happens the insight, and happens the revelation and happens the awareness of Big I. And when we are aware of Big I in meditation, when that becomes part of our consciousness, and we then come out of our meditation, we're now looking at the stage from the position of having remembered who we are, that we're the actor, and now we see the other players as players acting roles, and we see one person on the stage kill another person on the stage, but we realize that we have an actor acting like a killer and we have an actor acting like a killee, and that nothing's really happening except the play is being carried out. And as soon as the curtain drops, the actor and the killer and the killee will meet behind the stage and congratulate each other on how well they killed and died, and we'll all have a good laugh, and we'll see it that way as a result of having remembered who we are. And if we only remember who we are for a minute, still the picture will look different. It will look more harmonious. And the more we have the experience of the presence of God, which is the experience of the disidentification with the body-mind, then the more we will see the outpicturing of that consciousness when we are once again associated with, although not identified with, the body-mind. Do you see the difference? Being associated with a particular body-mind but not identified with it. Knowing that you're the Big I that is all of everything, as well as specifically expressed as the individual consciousness which is associated with that body-mind. Every time you're quiet, your mind is quiet. Like right now. Here it is. There's a presence right now that is as much inside me as outside me, as inside you as outside you. And if you're not locked in your body, and if your mind is silent, this is what is. And it's obvious that the body is just an image in this. So if you see a situation that's not harmonious, you're having a misidentification problem. Get quiet. see the truth. Ask to remember who you are, and you will see the truth. And if you think you have a problem, you don't have a problem except one of misidentification. Get quiet. Go within. Ask to see the truth. There's just so much here right now. You know, it's hard to talk even. Do you see anybody else having a problem? You have two problems of misidentification. You and them. The seer and what's being seen. Get silent. Go within. Ask to be shown the truth. So now I know why we're here tonight, all of us, because we very seldom have this much presence on Wednesday night. I was wrong. The silence is here on Tuesday night, not on Wednesday night. And that's enough of that meditation. So now let's talk about anything you want to talk about. I think over the weeks this may become more and more a meditation and then a workshop talking about anything. So jump in, ask questions.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you said ask to see the truth, I have this struggle. I'm still at that stage, whatever you want to call it, growth, where it takes a while for me to quiet my mind. Mm-hmm. And then when I get there, it's a fabulous, the high. Mm-hmm. What I struggle with sometimes is though when I do ask to see the truth about particular something that I just can't get clarity on. There's times when I get a feeling that the truth is being spoken to me, but I still have a tendency to question it. Because I guess I'm afraid of I don't trust myself maybe or whatever. Because sometimes I'm thinking, my mind, how much am I thinking it and coming up with the answer because I'm thinking, or how much am I just listening? Is there any advice you can give to being able to identify when it's real and just my head?
It doesn't matter. Okay. It's as real, and, you're as quiet as you can be, and the truth that you receive is whatever it is, and your mind gets involved to whatever extent it will, and the whole thing is just part of one experience. And
I guess I've heard you talking about a kind of a knowing. You just know when it's the right thing. And
yeah,
I question when I know.
Sure. I know what you're saying, and I recall being there, and if you didn't think, you would know what to do. Okay?
Okay.
That I can tell you. And it's not like God speaks or revelation, but, suddenly I find myself doing things or knowing things or something like that, and that's fine. It doesn't need questioning. I know that in the big book it says we've got to be careful not to, I forget the exact words, but essentially it says, being beginners at this practice of going within for intuition, we got to, check it out with our sponsors or somebody, because we could make some foolish mistakes being beginners at this, but I don't know how true that is. Practice. If you're not clear, get silent and go within. Always in the moment. This is not a long-range plan thing. This is what to do right now.
That last line just tell us what to do right now. If the guy asks too much, what am I supposed to be doing over a long period of time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have yet to receive any long-range plans from God. It's like I pray, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And God says, go north. I say, how far? Silence. Why? Silence. But if you go north, after a while, it'll say, take a left. Oh, okay. And it's much more like that. Okay? And perhaps the difference between you and me is the level of trust.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I have a problem with everybody, but mostly authority. Like, they'll say something that I'm supposed to shrivel back at, and I'll go, oh, okay, well, that's cool, I understand that. And then they'll think, like in other words, they said, because I've been sick, I've been tore to the curb, so nothing's going to work. And I think it's because it doesn't matter why, but the antibiotics that I was taking, I don't think I have the right strong amount, so it just manifested throughout my body. And so they said, well, Sean, we have a goal to meet this week, and if you don't make it, then you get fired. And well, I called in saying I have to go to Harvard General. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, I would just put on a suit and come to work. And I was like, you didn't hear what I just said, so put on a suit, I go to work. And I said, look, I'm sick. And they said, well, we're not saying for you to come to work. We're saying you have a goal to meet. If you don't meet the goal, you get fired. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, I get fired because of that. I understand that. I just thought you wanted me to come to work when I need to be in the emergency room. Mm-hmm. So they took that as me having an attitude. And then I was just saying that means nothing to me, what you said. So I wasn't like emotional about it or anything, but it just seems that people don't like my response.
Well, I would say that was a misidentification problem.
On my part?
And theirs. If you were looking at yourself as playing shown better than anybody else could conceivably play it.
When I put on a suit and went there.
Yeah, doesn't matter what you're doing. You're doing a very good job of playing shown. And they're doing a very good job of playing sweatshop boss.
Right.
And if you look at them as doing an excellent job playing a role, and you look at yourself as doing an excellent job of playing shown, then there's no energy for you Sean may have some energy, and they may have some energy, but it's a play.
Yeah, it's funny.
And after the play, you both can chuckle about it. Next lifetime, you get to be the guy with the drum and the whip, and they get to be chained to the oar.
But that's the funny thing about, because I know that there's certain people in this context that we speak in that they've done silver less than me, but they're happier, you know, and I feel like, well, they've been doing all this work in past lifetimes, so now they're here. So then I don't have that equal thing, because I see this hierarchy, you know, so and I'm clear that I'm insane. I am insane, and I did some writing this morning, and I always start out, good morning, Sean, what have you got to say to me today? And it said, I'm insane. I don't think, and so that's another place where I'm confused. If we're on this one level of consciousness, then why are some people at a higher level of others when it's only one level? It seems like a hierarchy.
Why is one person in the play playing the role of killer, and another person in the play playing the role of killie, and another person in the play playing the role of cop, and another person in the play playing the role of priest? In fact, they're all just actors and actresses. They're at the same level. The roles appear to be different. At different
consciousness.
In consciousness, again, see, it's a case of misidentification. The one who is playing like shown was never born and will never die and is eternal. Just like the one that appears to be happier than shown and the one who appears to be more miserable than shown. All three of those are eternal beings, and in fact all three of those are the same eternal being, individualized. And from there, it's a Leelaa. The much more beneficial than figuring out why they appear to be further than you and these appear to be behinder than you is to disidentify with the you that they're further ahead of or further behind. Let the shown roll run out of gas. You can become who you really are in this lifetime, and all of that will be irrelevant. And I really do mean let it run out of gas. I don't mean figure it out or sort it out or beat it out or disenfranchise it or figure it out or talk it down or become disinterested in the perils of shown.
Perils aren't occurrences, they're my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to people, I say, you ever think this way? And people go, no, and they look at me all weird. And I go, well, I guess only me. And then in my writing today, it said, oh, so you're the only person on the planet that thinks that way, which wasn't really that sarcastic, but is basically, I realize I'm not the only one that thinks in the same thoughts. But
if you're worried about how you think, you are sustaining that thinking.
It goes away, but it came back.
But if you don't react to the thoughts going through your head, they run out of gas. It's reacting to the thinking that sustains the thinking. The only energy that your mind has to run on is the energy you give it. Either by rejoicing in the wonderful thoughts or reacting to the painful thoughts, or, if you come anywhere out of neutral with respect to any thought, you're energizing your mind and sustaining it. That's a long, slow process, but typically, unless you're a Robert, but the damn thing will run out of gas if you don't feed it. It's a matter of slowly as you can, diminishing your self-interest, diminishing your self-centeredness, diminishing your self-awareness, diminishing your attachment to things, diminishing, letting these things diminish, letting your desires diminish, letting your fears diminish, letting your hates diminish. When they come up, when your fear comes up, instead of being afraid, look at the fear and say, oh, he's afraid now. That's interesting. See, we can start doing that. The reason we, I don't talk like this in the skirt class, because these people are, if you're in terror, you're not going to stop and look at the terror and say, oh, that's interesting. If you're in 5-year-old terror, you're on your way down the creek, so most of us need to go through the script and pretend and do stuff like that, but those of us that are here tonight have some sort of a handle on that and can, to some extent, disassociate ourselves from the event. And to the extent that you disassociate yourself from the event, you're really disassociating yourself from shown. And the misidentification is taking place, or diminishing, depending on which way they're taking it. And that's the game. Let it run out of gas.
I wrote down. It's like a rubber band. So you're meditating and you're finally, you're with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And you're there. Because I was listening to one of the Robert tapes and he was saying that, you're going to meditate from 6 until 9, and I don't know. When, one, why bother to come out? And two, when one comes out, why do anything?
Well, the answer is, why bother to come out? Don't.
Right.
Why bother?
Right. And then in another part, it's talking about illness.
When you cannot come out,
Uh-huh.
please come out one more time
Uh-huh.
and tell me about it. Instead, we come out, so to speak. The body appears to come out. But even though the body has come out, Robert's body, from all appearance to all other appearances, Robert would come out.
Mm-hmm.
But Robert never came out. Robert disappeared into it when he was 14 and stayed in. He dissolved. The ego center completely dissolved. And yet, the body carried on for another 58 years and did things. But there was nobody in there doing them. The play was going on. And the what was running the body The play went on, the body continued, whatever was running the body ran the body, but Robert was no longer in any way associated with it, because Robert was the consciousness within which it was happening, and that's the being in the world but not of it state. So you can stay in that state that you accomplish now in meditation, even when your eyes are not closed and you're up and doing things, as long as you're not associated with the doing. Again, it's the question of identification. If you get silent in meditation and you drop all six senses and then car backfires and you're back and you immediately re-identify with your body-mind, all right, you lost it. If you come back, if you hear the bang and you open your eyes, but you don't, but it's not you that opens your eyes, it's that the body opens its eyes because the body reacts to that, but it's not you, and you maintain your identification as the big I. There's no reason for that to ever stop. That's exactly where Robert was for 58 years, and that's where Jesus was most of the time, and where Buddha was for 40 years or 50 years that he taught, and where all the masters are, and I keep finding new masters that I just love, who are there all the time, regardless of what their body is doing, and they just don't much care what the body's doing because it's not them. Like I was saying, they're eternal. The body is carrying out the play. Our problem is that we think we meditate and then we think we're back in our body. And, there's no reason to... We think we meditate and then the meditation ends when we open our eyes. And there's no reason to close your eyes to meditate. Here it is. Here's the presence. My eyes are open, I'm talking, and it's very clear right now that here's the presence. And you're seeing it too. You're feeling it too right now. So what's this?
Being the audience.
So what's this come back stuff? What happens
sometimes I'm on the stage and sometimes I'm in the audience.
Sometimes you forget and re-identify with the body-mind. And that's the practice. Tree. What did you have?
I had this last week, like a day and a half of experiencing the silence wherever I went, whatever I was doing. And what would happen is, I'd be going from one place to the next, to the next, to the next, doing whatever came next in my schedule. And say like I was in a restaurant and I was at a table with some people having dinner, and I would I would get quiet. Well, the quietness would kind of come upon me. And it would be in a moment when I wasn't talking, but everything was going on. The waitress was there and serving or whatever, but I would have the experience of kind of pulling back and disassociating myself, not being there. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, I just kept feeling a silence and a quietness, and it was there, and it was in between the people that were there. It was in the room. It was filling. It was a full feeling, and a joyful feeling, and a strong feeling, and then getting in the car and driving to wherever else, and then being at home and going to bed or whatever, and then, it would be there maybe when I was reading my kids a story. All of a sudden, it was just like a strong, quiet silence in between all the people that were in the room, just filling the room. And it was there for quite a while, more than a day. Like a half a day into the night and then all through the next day, and it would be whenever I would just, all of a sudden I would be to the next place, and I would feel it, and it would just be full, and I would go, there it is again, wow, and I look around, and okay, there it is again, this is what I feel on a Tuesday night. It's it's being carried from Tuesday night kind of with me right now, wherever I go. This is cool. And then, 3 or 4 days it wasn't there anymore, but I had that experience this week.
Sure. That's it. And it's here right now. Yep. That's it. And there's just no difference between that and Robert's was always there. Okay?
And it feels now that what you're describing now about how you can be in meditation and closing your eyes, and then you get up and you go do the next thing. That doesn't have to stop. You just described the experience that I had because
that's what I'm talking about. That's what Jesus meant about being in the world but not of it. That's exactly what he meant. He's always being there, where the body is doing it, and you're aware of the body doing it, and you're observing what the body is doing, but you're continually aware of the presence. And now you understand what he meant when he said closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. That's what Jesus meant by that. It is closer than breathing, it's nearer than hands and it's not only the spaces between you and me, but it's the spaces between the molecules, it's the spaces between the atoms in my body, it's the spaces between the particles that make up the atoms, it's space. At all levels, it's the fabric of the universe. I would say the substratum of absolute reality. And all of this is just the word I was going to say was an imposition on this fabric of the universe, which is what you're talking about, this presence that's omnipresent. Except it doesn't feel like an imposition, but it's imposed on it. Superimposed, let's say. A superimposition.
literally.
On this. And you are the individual expression of God, and since this is things spiritual rather than things material, the individual expression of God is all of it. So all of God is there. All of God is where you are. We always get confused when we talk about, seeing the universe in a grain of sand. But how can God express itself as all these individual beings and individual consciousnesses, and have the individual consciousnesses all be all of God? That sounds like a real problem, but it's only a problem in time and space. And the time and space are within the consciousness. It's not that the consciousness is within time and space. So there is no alternative then for everything to be here, because everything is where there is consciousness of it. Words don't work. But the fact is that space and time are within not only the God consciousness, but within each individual consciousness. All of time and space are within your consciousness in the exact sense that you create time and space when you have a dream at night. So also within your real consciousness, your real individual consciousness, and within God consciousness is time and space and all that, because that's just concepts in space, and you can hold a concept in your mind. So all those terms don't have meaning is what I'm saying. But it's all here. Because there's no place else for it to be. Where else would it be, and when else would it be? Because there ain't nowhere else or when else or thing else.
Seems so I just resonate with so much, with everything you're saying. And I just wonder why this highest truth seems so small in the midst of massive appearance. I mean, there's 85 million books out there, and none of them talk about, or, whatever. A billionth of a percent talk about this. And there's 85 million people out there on a spiritual path, and none of them are, you know what I mean? It just seems like so hard to find, so small, so...
And Nisargadatta, who I was looking at, would say, well, the problem is that your concept of this whole being and all these so many beings and all these so many books and ideas is so minute in this consciousness that I am. Okay? See, it's exactly the other way around. When you're looking up, it looks like this huge thing, but the fact is that this consciousness in this world and these people and these ideas and these books and all this unenlightened truth and all this stuff that you're talking about is so minute in the truth that is. And it's not that I'm talking highest truth to you, or that Robert's talking highest truth to you. It's because that's the misidentification. You think Lee's talking truth to Joanne. That's the misidentification. It's the I within you is now emerged enough that it is beginning to express itself as the highest truth in a way that you can see it. And there's no me here, and there's no Robert there, and there's none of that other stuff going on. You are beginning to express higher truth in a way that it's recordable in the five senses, which is the way it has to appear while you're doing this dance. But what's going on is the teaching is happening entirely above the five senses and above the rational mind. But it looks this way, just like when you get clear and you're in the spiritual adult and you look out there, still there's a picture. The picture just seems to clean up. So you're now hearing somebody speaking truth. Okay? And that's you manifesting the hearing of somebody speaking truth. It's all you. And as you expand that ability, you will arrive to that point where you don't see anything but truth. You will see all the 6 billion individual expressions of God. You will see the 6 billion God incarnates, okay, doing a play, and that will all be highest truth. And there won't be any examples of not highest truth except in the set of the play. So you're seeing truth. And Pri was seeing truth and experiencing it. And she thinks she's taking Tuesday night with her. Actually, she's bringing it to Tuesday night. Thank you. It was here tonight, wasn't it?
It reminds me.
It's all you. It's all you. There's nothing happening. There's nobody here. You had something, Greg?
Yeah, I was thinking, you were talking earlier that God must have an incredible sense of humor. To have...
I don't know. Are you laughing?
I'm laughing.
And I rest my case. It says, yeah.
I mean, it's obviously God's will to have the misidentification going on in 6 billion people.
God doesn't see any misidentification.
But for us to experience misidentification, and God is expressing Himself to each one of us individually as an expression of Himself.
Mm-hmm. But the expressions of Himself don't see the misidentification. It's the misidentifications that see the misidentification, isn't it?
But part of our experience is the misidentification.
Part of the misidentification's experience is seeing the misidentification. It's not part of your experience.
It's not a part of my true self's experience.
That's right.
But it's an illusion of the experience if you're not aware of the consciousness of the truth.
The illusion is having an illusion. I'm not. I am is not having an illusion. The illusion is in the mind.
Do you see it to some degree being God's will that we have this mind illusion going on?
No, I don't see.
If all things are God's will, then all things are done.
You're
That's God
creating.
wishes them to be.
You, the misidentification, is creating your experience, not God.
Kind of paradoxical because sometimes you say,
Just a little.
sometimes you say whatever's happening is God's will.
Sure.
But then you also say there's no God operating in human.
Yeah, well, that's a different
human
level.
experience.
At the level we're talking about, we're not talking about things happening as God's will. There's no God willing this and that.
Right.
That's a whole different level of talk. The level we're talking at, that's not what's happening at all. If you had a dream and there were a bunch of people that were dying of some terrible disease, and you woke up and had the realization that all they needed was a flu shot, would you go back into the dream to give them the flu shot? No, they never existed.
No, that's true.
Never happened. Now we're together.
If the analogy I'm making in my head is Betty Davis once said on method acting, she's like, just get up there and act.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the method actor is kind of this mistake that we're doing where you really get into it. So that, yeah, basically they have trouble pulling out of the role, so they are trying to kill each other up there on the stage and really getting into it. And it's what we're trying to train ourselves to do is to be able to act, not become.
Except that's not even the experience. The experience is watching the body
So remaining in that audience.
and remaining in the audience. Even though it's your role up there on the screen, or up there on the stage, you know, it's not really, it's no more your role than the other ones. Yes, Sean?
There was this guy that was here a few weeks ago, and I'm ready to put, I forgot your name, Teresa. And I had about 3 months last year of that. I was working nights, and so I got to listen to Robert for 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Helps, doesn't it?
yeah, I was like, I'm in Taco Bell drive-thru. Oh, I'm eating a burrito, you know. And I was doing all these meditations, and I remember I hit bliss, and all I can say, my experience with bliss is when the atom bomb does that thing, that was like, whoa, like that. And then another thing I did, or that I experienced, or that appeared to be an experience, was I saw the consciousness the second before I woke up, and it was so vast that it was, again, the atom bomb. It's like there's no explaining how huge, how phenomenal it. And that was like so scary because I'd never experienced it before. And it was a very peaceful time. And then this guy was sharing how he was cruelly returned. And so now it's like, in my head I know I'm there, but you know, I have to do all this writing, and like I don't take notes when I go to these things because it's like the notes for me would mean that I believe that something I can do would actually make me. So it's when I'm in this with people is when I feel good. And then I carry that out around, but it goes away. And then I stop doing it. And then when I do it again, I go, why do I stop doing this? Is it a trained, is it a practice thing, or is it just my journey just happens to be, I mean, I know that.
Everybody has that experience about everything they do.
And then with the horizontal and vertical, you know, I was a lot more vertical last year than,
Yeah, because you know, and if you were to leave LA and go up into the mountains, you'd be a lot more horizontal. You know, you're in a particular sub-cauldron of human consciousness. And if you're at your apartment at the beach and you don't have to go to work and you don't have to meet any obligations and you're listening to Robert 8 hours a day, you're a lot less immersed in the stew than you are if you're in a sweatshop, where they're, you know, going out of their way to hype you in the material world and into human consciousness. So, you know, and if you went out to the desert, that's why do you think Jesus went into the desert for 40 days before he came back to teach? To get clear. Get the hell out of this consciousness, binding me down. You know? I mean, the fact is that, you know, as we develop this experience, having, you know, retreats are valuable, and getting away, getting out of the cauldron of human consciousness is valuable, and having nothing to do is valuable. Having, you know, just all these things greatly diminish your attachment.
I was actually working when I was listening to Robert all that time, but at a job.
But it was a different kind of job.
Yeah, so.
Sure.
But I remember another time that I was walking down, there's a scene in The Matrix where they freeze frame it and the birds are stuff, and it's like everywhere I walked, it was like, oh, there's another frame, oh, there's something, and it framed, and that lasted for like 3 months. And,
right. So you know the truth. People have experiences, and they, you know, once you have a day like Tree was talking about, or once you have a second of bliss like you were talking about, there's no doubt. You know, now it's just a matter of acquiring it again, except there's not even that because you're already that. It's the hustling that prevents it.
I looked up the word default, and it said, it was so full that it said, I can't remember, but it was not taking the action to have something, man, I'll write it down, but like, it was just saying, like you say, happiness is the default. When I take the action to create happiness, I'm not.
That's right.
There's such this sense of relief in abiding in this truth.
Sure.
It's an overwhelming feeling. It's an overwhelming feeling.
Yes, yeah. That's why we have communities and why we do this sort of stuff and we get lifted. And of course, once you've been lifted, you never slip back as far. And when you have the experience, there's no questioning the truth. That's why I tell people, don't believe me. I don't ever ask anybody to believe me, but once you know, Show knows what I mean when I say bliss. Tree knows it's omnipresent. You know, I mean, we all have our experiences and we all find parts of it. And more it happens. And it's all, you know, again, it's all, you know, it looks as if it's attributable to the outside things, but we have to recall that we're creating those outside things, so it's all our own consciousness expressing. Your experience is entirely the expression of your consciousness. And you happen to think that it works better here on Tuesday nights, but that's your creation. Not mine. Where are we at?
Not yours.
V, but not mine, not Lee's.
So the Leelaa is not real.
Mm-hmm.
That
But there's nothing realer.
silence that I was experiencing, that is real.
Mm-hmm.
That is reality, and everything else that was going on in the room wasn't.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, the game is, of course, that what's real is no thing. Yes, that silence is the reality. It's what we say when we say reality. But there is no thingness to it. Nor does it really have any attribute. You know, that's all the stuff within it. It's not real. And in another sense, it's just a click lower than that. There's nothing realer than all the stuff in it. Right? I mean, it's not like there isn't anything that's real. If you look at the fact that reality has no thingness and no suchness and no attributes and no nothing about it, and in fact calling it reality is already mislabeling it, then there is nothing realer than the non-reality of the Leelaa. So if we go around saying this isn't real, without having another side of the coin, we're sort of in trouble. There's a thing, the guy that wrote that little plaque up on the wall, and later on in it, he says, essentially, you know, to disregard, I'll paraphrase it in your term, to disregard the reality because of the Leelaa is to miss. But to disregard the Leelaa because of the reality is also to miss.
So might you say something like, there is an awareness of bliss beyond this?
You see, the words get messed up. It depends on where you're talking from.
Because we're trying to watch it and not get caught up in it.
Sure.
We're trying to have an awareness of big eye all the
At
time.
that stage, yeah, that's the individual. See, that it's not just two stages. You know, it's from the little eye to the big eye, but the big eye is still in duality because it's the individual expression of God. Okay, so while you're identified with the big eye, you're still in duality. And yes, the big eye is working on becoming permanently aware of the bliss. The further stage is to drop that identification. Okay? So that you're no longer the big I, and you're not the bliss, and because if there's a you, there's the duality. And then
So if
it's
there's
all...
anything, being aware of anything, that's not it.
Right.
No,
That's a step on the way.
but it's pretty goddamn nice. Okay?
I think one of the parts that's confusing from this that I feel like I was
The part that's confusing.
wait, because I feel like I was dropped in here, and I'm zooming in and out of the micro macrocosmos, zooming around, so the language changes, and just as I'm thinking in that sphere, we're changing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'm having trouble keeping up with it.
I've been listening to a Joel tape all week that's been talking about how when you're abiding in the consciousness and you're there and you have it and you understand, yet you're still, you can still go to work and be a business person and be a housewife in the home and to all appearances that's who you are. You just kind of keep that sacred and secret to yourself. So that's kind of keeping the Leelaa a reality by doing that. Still going and showing up and functioning and saying things to people when you know the truth inside.
Yep, that's the stage. This here, one stage is not having any idea of truth at all, and the next stage is you grow the spiritual adult that we talk about. You grow the I consciousness, and you become more and more aware of who you really are, and you go through the act, and then you get to the, that stage moves into the stage where you're in that consciousness and you're watching her go through the stuff and act, okay? Rather than you going through, instead of you going through the day doing the housewife stuff with a little part of you parked on God, what you are is you're parked on God, watching her, watching it, that body mind, go through the day and do her stuff, okay? And that's the further separation. Okay, that's when you're becoming what they call the witness, and you're watching the show.
But it's still reality. Both still keep it as
real as anything. Is the point. I mean, my point is that when we say this isn't real, the implication is that there's something that is, and you show me what that is. It's frivolous to just throw away, well, none of this is real, because when we say that, it's as if that allowed us to do something or know something or something like that, and the we, the us that's allowed to know something or do something or something is part of what we just threw away. So do you see how it makes no sense? If you're throwing away the unreal, you just threw yourself away too. Okay? Well, none of this is real. Who says so? This is the question. Because the who said so isn't either. Oh well. Let's get quiet. So it was a silly way to spend the evening, but then from this position, aren't they all?
This was actually,
intriguing.
this was one of the nicer ones.
Well, thank you all for coming. And I love you all. We'll see you soon.